3 years of marriage, she devoted everything to building a home, only to receive coldness and betrayal in return. On the day her husband's arrogant adopted sister threw a vase and sent her bleeding to the hospital, her husband did not care to save his wife, choosing instead to pull his mistress into his arms. Waking up, she resolutely filed for divorce, returning to New York City into the embrace of her powerful family and her childhood friend, an elite corporate lawyer. From then on, she was reborn as a queen of the business world, finding happiness with a man who truly deserved her. Meanwhile, the man who once abandoned her was left with nothing, bitterly watching his career and fortune crumble. Let us tune into Midnight Tales to listen to this captivating romance story. The doorbell rang dryly, shattering the suffocating silence of the massive Beverly Hills mansion. I set my glass of red wine on the table, my eyes never leaving the dancing flames in the European-style fireplace. Today was the 3rd wedding anniversary for Hunter Sterling and me, and just like the previous 2 years, he was absent. The butler walked in, followed by Assistant Vance, a man who always maintained a respectful yet distant expression. He placed a sapphire blue velvet box on the table. "Mr. Sterling asked me to bring this to you, ma'am. He says happy anniversary." Assistant Vance bowed his head, repeating the lines like a machine. "There is an emergency meeting at the company that cannot be rescheduled. He asked that you not wait up for dinner." I gave a slight smirk, a smile colder than the early winter chill of Los Angeles. An emergency meeting, how many times had he used this excuse? I had lost count. "Did he say anything else?" I asked, my voice calm. "No, ma'am. Mr. Sterling said you should rest early." "All right, thank you." I signaled the butler to see the guest out. When I was finally alone in the living room, I slowly opened the box. Inside lay an exquisitely crafted diamond necklace, the center stone blindingly brilliant. Any other woman receiving this gift would have gone crazy with happiness, but I only found it ridiculous. This gift was just like our marriage, glamorous, expensive, but completely soulless. I was certain it was the work of some diligent secretary, selected based on the criteria of being the newest and most expensive, rather than coming from my husband's heart. 3 years ago, I, Chloe King, the only daughter of the King family in New York, defied my family's objections and moved to the West Coast for the man I fell madly in love with at first sight, Hunter Sterling. I once thought my devotion could melt the 1,000-year-old glacier inside him, but I was wrong. For 3 years, all I received was loneliness in a luxurious mansion and a husband who existed only in name. I picked up the wine glass, the swirling red liquid reflecting my emotionless face. Right then, my phone rang. It was my older brother, Carter King. I took a deep breath, adjusting my voice to sound cheerful before answering. "Well, little sister, forgot about your brother again? It took several rings for you to pick up." Carter's voice on the other end was as doting as ever. I let out a light laugh. I wouldn't dare. I was just a little busy. "Did you call for something? Can't I call my favorite sister for no reason? Mom and Dad miss you terribly. You should arrange a trip back to New York soon. Also, is that Hunter guy bullying you?" My heart gave a slight twinge. My family's care was like a needle piercing straight through the fake bubble I was trying so hard to maintain. "He treats me very well. Don't worry," I lied. "Work has just been a bit busy lately. I'll come home to visit in a little while." "That is good to hear," Carter sighed in relief. "But remember, if he dares to make you suffer, even if the sky falls, I will turn Los Angeles upside down to get justice for you." I know. My brother is the absolute best. I forced down the bitterness in my heart, exchanged a few jokes, and hung up. My brother's call caused the fortress I had built to collapse. I sat silently alone in the empty living room, a feeling of absolute isolation enveloping my entire body. I used to think that as long as I was patient, as long as I loved him enough, one day he would turn around and look at me. But hope kept fading with every cold anniversary like today. I unlocked my phone and aimlessly scrolled through Instagram. Then, a photo caught my eye, making my breath hitch. It was a post from a blogger who tracked high society gossip, taken just an hour ago at the VIP lounge of LAX. Hunter Sterling stood there, his long coat accentuating his tall frame. His usually cold face now gleamed with a rare, gentle warmth. Beside him was a young woman with long hair, wearing a pristine white dress, smiling radiantly as she linked her arm through his. The caption below the photo read, "Sterling Global CEO Hunter Sterling personally goes to the airport to pick up his adopted sister, Willow Sterling, after her years of studying abroad. Such an admirable sibling bond." His adopted sister, Willow Sterling. So this was his emergency meeting? I stared at the smile on Hunter's lips in the photo. Throughout our 3 years of marriage, I had never received that smile once. It turned out he knew how to smile, just not for me. The wine glass slipped from my hand, shattering on the marble floor. The red wine spread out like a pool of highly ironic blood. The next morning, as the first rays of sunlight pierced through the window, Hunter's familiar Rolls-Royce finally rolled into the driveway. He did not come home alone. Walking beside him was Willow, the girl from last night's photo. I had stayed awake all night, but still managed to maintain my most composed appearance. I sat at the dining table, wearing light makeup and an elegant loungewear dress, fully looking the part of the lady of the house. Hunter walked in, followed by Willow, who was curiously looking around. He glanced at me, his eyes not showing a single trace of guilt for lying. "You are up early." He took off his coat and handed it to the maid, his tone as indifferent as always. "Good morning," I replied, my gaze shifting to the girl beside him. "This must be Willow, your sister, right?" "Hello, I am Chloe." Willow blinked her large, round eyes, offering a smile so sweet it felt incredibly fake. "Hello, sister-in-law. I have heard Hunter talk about you a lot. You are even prettier in person than in your photos." "Oh? Why have I never heard him mention you?" I smiled and replied with a casual remark, but it was enough to make the atmosphere in the room drop. Hunter's face darkened slightly. He pulled out a chair for Willow to sit next to him, an act of care I had never experienced. "Willow just returned to the States and is not used to many things yet. You are her sister-in-law. Look after her from now on," he said, his tone not a request but a command. "That is what I should do." I nodded calmly, signaling the maid to serve breakfast. The meal proceeded in an incredibly bizarre atmosphere. Willow constantly placed food into Hunter's bowl, recounting stories from their childhood, memories in which I was completely an outsider. "Hunter, do you remember the wisteria tree in the backyard? When I fell out of it as a kid, you carried me on your back for miles to the hospital." She giggled, her eyes sparkling as she looked at him. Hunter, a man who was always a man of few words with me, patiently listened, the corners of his lips even curving up slightly. "I remember. You cried softly for a whole week after that." I ate in silence, feeling like an invisible ghost. On paper, this house belonged to him and me, but now I realized I could never squeeze into their world. After breakfast, Willow took a tour around the house, then stopped in front of Hunter's home office. "Wow, your office hasn't changed a bit." She casually pushed the door open and walked in, picking up a model sailboat from the desk. "This is the birthday gift I gave you when you turned 18. Hunter followed her inside, looking at her with absolute indulgence. I stood at the door, crossing my arms over my chest. "Willow, the home office is a private space. It is not appropriate for you to just walk in," Willow pouted, turning to look at Hunter with a pitiful expression. "Hunter, does my sister-in-law not like me being in your room? But I used to come and go freely all the time." Before I could say anything, Hunter spoke up, his tone somewhat reproachful. "Chloe, it is just a home office. Don't be so petty. Willow is not an outsider." His words felt like a knife plunging straight into my heart. In his eyes, I was the outsider trying to cause trouble. "Fine, I am being petty." I turned and walked away, not wanting to stay a second longer to witness that blinding scene. That evening, as I was choosing an outfit for a major corporate gala the next day, Willow walked into my walk-in closet without knocking. "Sister-in-law, you have so many beautiful dresses." She cheered, casually running her hands over my designer gowns. Her eyes stopped on an emerald green evening dress that I loved very much. "This one is so gorgeous." "Hunter, come look at this." Hunter, who had never once stepped foot into my walk-in closet, appeared right after her call. Willow held the dress against her body. "Do you think I look pretty in this?" Hunter nodded, his eyes not hiding his admiration. "Beautiful." My patience had reached its limit. I stepped forward and snatched the dress back from her hands. "Willow Sterling, these are my clothes. Please have some self-respect." Willow immediately teared up. "Sister-in-law, I just wanted to try it on for a second." "Why are you being so fierce?" Hunter frowned at me. "Chloe, you are crossing the line. It is just a dress. Do you have to make her cry over it?" I looked at him, then at his adopted sister who was putting on a flawless performance, and suddenly burst out laughing. My laugh was full of sarcasm and bitterness. The storm had just begun, yet I already felt so exhausted I wanted to give up. But I knew I could not. I could not be the loser in this battle. The Vanderbilt Corporate Gala was one of the biggest events in Los Angeles for the latter half of the year, gathering all the city's elites. This was the first time Hunter and I would appear in public together since Willow's return. He needed me, Mrs. Sterling, to play the role of the perfect wife by his side. And I needed a stage to begin my own play. I chose a pristine white Chanel evening gown. The design was simple but accentuated every curve. My hair was styled in an elegant updo, exposing my slender neck and the diamond necklace he had gifted me. When I walked downstairs, Hunter was waiting. A flash of surprise crossed his eyes, but it was quickly hidden beneath his inherent coldness. "Let's go." He only said 2 words, then offered his arm. I placed my hand on his arm, feeling the chill radiate from it. We did not speak a word to each other the entire ride to the gala. Willow tagged along as well. She wore a pastel pink princess dress, sitting in the front seat, chirping endlessly about all the new things in California, and Hunter occasionally replied. I leaned my head against the glass, watching the neon lights blur past the window, feeling like I was in a completely different world. As soon as we entered the banquet hall, we immediately became the center of attention. Hunter Sterling was the uncrowned king of the West Coast business world, and I was the wealthy heiress of the King family from New York. The union of our families was already a hot topic. CEO Sterling, Mrs. Sterling, long time no see. Mrs. Sterling looks absolutely stunning tonight. I gave a polite social smile, holding onto Hunter's arm, perfectly playing the part of a devoted couple. Willow bashfully hid behind him, acting like a timid little sister, which prompted many society ladies present to shower her with compliments. Is this Miss Willow? She looks so pure and adorable. CEO Sterling is truly blessed, having a beautiful wife and such a sweet sister. I gave a slight smirk. Sweet. If they knew her true face, I wonder what expressions they would have. When Hunter was talking to a few important partners, I used the excuse of getting a drink to step away. I needed some air. But just as I picked up a glass of champagne, Willow walked up beside me. Sister-in-law, are you here all alone? She smiled, her clear eyes looking at me. I just wanted a moment of peace, I replied, having no intention of chatting further. Is that so? She feigned disappointment, but immediately raised her glass of red wine. Can I offer you a toast? Thank you for taking care of me these past few days. I looked at the deep red liquid in her hand, a bad premonition rising in my chest, but in the middle of a crowd I could not refuse. You don't have to be so polite. Just as I finished my sentence, Willow suddenly slipped, her whole body stumbling toward me. The entire glass of red wine in her hand poured straight onto my white gown. A blindingly red stain spread across the pristine white fabric, looking utterly disastrous. Ah! Willow let out a scream, then quickly stood up, her face full of panic and guilt. I am so sorry. I really didn't mean to. My ankle just twisted. Her scream immediately attracted the attention of everyone around us. All eyes shifted toward us. I looked at the stain on my dress, then at Willow's face that looked like she was about to cry, feeling nothing but a chilling coldness inside. What a flawless performance. Sister-in-law, I am sorry, please don't be mad at me, she said as she reached out, pretending to help wipe the stain, but her action only smeared the wine further. I took a deep breath and swatted her hand away. That is enough. My voice was not loud, but cold enough to make Willow freeze. Instantly, tears welled up in her eyes, making her look even more pitiful. You really are mad at me. Right at this moment, Hunter strode over, his face dark. He didn't ask if I was okay. He didn't ask what happened. The very first thing he said was directed at Willow. Willow, are you all right? I am fine, but I ruined my sister-in-law's dress. Willow sobbed, leaning into his embrace for protection. The gazes of the people around us began to change. In their eyes, I had become the wicked sister-in-law bullying the innocent, pitiful younger sister. Hunter turned to look at me, his gaze as sharp as a knife. He grabbed my wrist, gripping it so hard it sent a jolt of pain through me. Chloe, what the hell are you doing? He leaned in close to my ear, grinding out every word, his voice low enough that only the two of us could hear. Do you want me to lose all my face here? Lose face. I looked at him, finding it so ridiculous I was at a loss for words. I was the victim, my expensive dress was the one ruined, and I was the one becoming a laughingstock for the whole room. Yet in his eyes, I was the troublemaker. He didn't give me a chance to explain, pulling me forcefully out of the crowd and toward a deserted balcony. Hunter, let go of me. I tried to yank my arm back. Shut up, he yelled, pushing me into the corner of the wall. Willow just made an honest mistake. Did you really have to put on that face for everyone to see? Do you know what occasion this is? What will people think of the Sterling family if you act like this? What will they think of me? I looked deep into his angry eyes, my heart turning completely to ice. So the only thing he cared about from beginning to end was his image, the reputation of the Sterling family. My humiliation wasn't worth a single cent in his eyes. So what do you want me to do? My voice was strangely calm as I smiled and said, should I say, it is okay that your precious sister intentionally destroyed my dress? Or should I apologize to her for standing there and letting her pour wine all over me? Chloe! He roared, raising his hand as if he wanted to slap me, but stopping midair. Don't be so damn unreasonable. I stood up straight, looking right back at him without an ounce of fear. Who is the unreasonable one? You know best. Hunter, do not push me. With that, I slipped past him and walked back into the banquet hall. I went straight to the hosts of the gala. The Vanderbilt smiled as I apologized. I am so sorry. I have an urgent matter and must leave early. Thank you so much for the invitation. After that, without waiting for Hunter, I left the gala alone amidst the curious and gossiping stares of everyone present. The white dress with the glaring red wine stain was just like a bleeding wound in my marriage. I returned to the mansion, the house cold and empty. I didn't turn on the lights, just sat on the sofa in the darkness, letting the silence swallow me whole. I used to love the glamour, loved the extravagant parties, but now I realized it was all just a grand stage, and I was a terrible actress trying to play a role that didn't belong to me. About an hour later, the familiar sound of a car engine echoed outside the gates. Hunter was home. He walked into the house and flipped on the glaring lights, the sudden brightness making me squint. "Chloe, you really outdid yourself." He threw his suit jacket onto a chair, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Walking out in the middle of the gala like that, do you know what the papers are going to write tomorrow?" I remained seated, not saying a word. My silence seemed to anger him even more. "Have you gone mute? You were acting so fierce at the party." He walked over and stood blocking my view. His tall shadow loomed over me. I looked up straight into his eyes. "You are back. Where is your adopted sister? Why didn't you bring her home with you?" Willow was tired, so I took her back to the old family estate first. He frowned. "Don't drag her into this." "Not drag her into this?" I let out a laugh. The laugh sounded incredibly tragic. "Hunter, have you ever dared to face the truth? Or are you just used to running away and blaming others? I have nothing more to say to you." He showed his impatience, turning around to head upstairs. Perhaps he thought this meaningless argument should end here, but I wasn't going to let it end that easily. "Stop right there," I called out, stopping him in his tracks. "I have something to show you." I stood up and walked straight to his home office. That place had become off-limits to me since Willow returned. But today, I was breaking that rule. I knew exactly where he hid his secrets. Under the bottom drawer was a secret compartment locked with a passcode. I had accidentally discovered that passcode a long time ago. It was Willow Sterling's birthday. I unlocked it and pulled out an old black leather diary. This was something I had discovered 2 years ago, but I always kept deceiving myself, never daring to face it. I returned to the living room and tossed the diary onto the coffee table right in front of him. "Take a look. Read over the sick, twisted feelings you wrote down." Hunter's face instantly went pale. He looked at the diary, then at me, his eyes flashing with extreme panic and sheer rage. "You dared to go through my things?" he roared, his voice going hoarse. "Go through your things?" I sneered. "If you had nothing to hide, why be afraid of others finding out? Let me read it to you." Month, day, year. Today, Willow wore a white dress. When she smiles, she looks like an angel. I just want to hide her away, to never let any other man look at her. Or how about this entry? Month, day, year. Chloe brought up having a child again. How ridiculous. How could I ever let another woman bear my child when the only image in my heart is Willow? This marriage is nothing but a shield to protect her purity, to blind the eyes of the world. With every word I read aloud, Hunter's face grew uglier. He lunged forward and snatched the diary out of my hands. "Shut your mouth. Why should I shut up? If you dared to write it, why don't you dare to hear it?" I didn't back down, looking him straight in the eyes. "Hunter, you are absolutely disgusting. You used me, turning me into a human shield for your incestuous feelings. For the past 3 years, what did you treat me as? As some idiot you could easily fool? I forbid you from talking about Willow like that." He gripped the diary tightly, the veins popping on the back of his hands. "My feelings for her are pure." "Pure?" I burst out laughing, tears uncontrollably welling up in my eyes. "Are you done lying to yourself? Look me in the eyes and say that again. Do you dare?" He remained silent, his bloodshot eyes staring fixedly at me. His silence was the clearest answer. I wiped my tears, my voice turning icy and resolute. "Hunter Sterling, I have endured enough." I took a deep breath, enunciating every word. "Let us get a divorce." As those words were spoken, the air in the room seemed to freeze solid. Hunter stared at me, dumbfounded, as if he couldn't believe what he had just heard. The woman who had always chased after him, who always tolerated him, was now the one taking the initiative to say the word divorce. "What did you just say?" he asked, his voice steeped in disbelief. "I said this game has reached its end." I looked straight into his eyes. There was no longer any love left in them, only hatred and determination. "I will make you and your precious sister pay the price for everything you have done to me." My words, "Let us get a divorce," were like a ticking time bomb, shattering the suffocation in the living room and leaving behind a deadly void. Hunter stood frozen in place, the anger on his face slowly being replaced by an expression of sheer, unbelievable bewilderment. He looked at me as if trying to confirm whether the woman who just uttered those cruel words was really Chloe, the wife who had spent 3 years of her youth loving him in such a pathetic way. "What did you just say?" he asked again, his hoarse voice carrying a hidden threat. "Say it one more time." I stared straight into his bloodshot eyes, not flinching in the slightest. My pain had turned into courage. My disappointment had transformed into strength. I said divorce. I repeated every word, clear and cold as ice. "I do not want to continue this fake marriage anymore." "Fake?" Hunter let out a scoff, a smile full of arrogance and contempt. "Chloe, do not forget that you were the one who practically begged to marry me. Now you bring up the word divorce. Do you think you have the right to do that?" He stepped forward, grabbing my chin tightly, forcing me to look up and face him. "I will give you one last chance to take back what you just said, and I can pretend I heard nothing." I violently slapped his hand away, taking a step back to maintain my distance. "Hunter, you didn't hear wrong. I want a divorce. I do not want to live another day with a man who only has his sister's image in his heart." Our conversation was growing increasingly tense, and it seemed a shadow had been standing on the staircase for some time, quietly observing everything. "Hunter, sister-in-law." The weak, trembling voice of Willow Sterling rang out, interrupting our standoff. She was wearing a pale pink silk nightgown, her long hair messy, her teary eyes making her look incredibly pitiful. "Can you two please stop fighting? I am so scared." She walked down the stairs, trying to wedge herself between us, playing the role of a well-intentioned peacemaker. "Sister-in-law, whatever it is, let's talk it out calmly. Why bring up divorce? Hunter will be so sad." I looked at her theatrical act and felt nauseous. "My marriage is none of your business," I said coldly. My gaze, sharp as a knife, swept across her fake face. "Or is it that you are the one looking forward to this day the most?" My words were like a needle popping Willow's disguise. Her face went pale, and the pitiful look in her eyes was quickly replaced by an unconcealable flash of venomous resentment. "Sister, what do you mean by that? I only wanted what is best for both of you." "Best for us?" I smirked. "You are the happiest person here knowing we are divorcing, so you can legitimately be with your brother, right? Stop acting, Willow. I saw through your true face a long time ago." My provocation completely pierced through her shell. Her fear of losing Hunter and the jealousy that had been building up for so long finally exploded. The mask of innocence fell off, revealing a face twisted with anger and envy. "Shut your mouth!" Willow shrieked, her voice stripped of any weakness. "What do you know? You are just an outsider. You are not allowed to leave him. You are not allowed to ruin us." In her frenzy, she looked around, her eyes landing on a heavy ceramic vase placed on a nearby cabinet. It was an antique given to us by my father on our wedding day. Without a second of hesitation, she lunged forward, grabbing the vase with both hands. "Willow, stop!" Hunter shouted, seemingly realizing something was wrong. But it was too late. With all her strength, Willow hurled the ceramic vase straight at me. Everything happened so fast. I only managed to see a white blur flying toward me, carrying a deadly swooshing sound. Crash! A dry, hollow sound echoed. Severe pain erupted from my forehead, as if my skull had just been split open by a hammer. My vision blurred, and the world in front of me began to spin. I felt a stream of warm liquid flowing down from my forehead, past my temple, and dripping onto the floor. The pungent smell of blood filled my nose. I staggered, reaching up to touch my forehead. My palm was instantly soaked in deep red. I collapsed onto the floor, the strength drained from my entire body. In that final moment, before my consciousness plunged into darkness, I still tried to look up at Hunter. He stood there, stunned, his face full of horror. Willow, after committing her horrific crime, began to tremble in terror. I didn't mean to. Hunter, I am so scared," she sobbed, looking more pitiful than anyone else. I saw Hunter move. A final, faint glimmer of hope sparked in my heart. Maybe he still had a shred of humanity left. Maybe he would run to my side. But no. He walked right past me, his wife lying in a pool of her own blood, to rush to the side of his terrified adopted sister. He pulled Willow into a tight embrace, patting her trembling back. "It is okay, I am here, don't be scared." His gentle, comforting voice was the last sound I heard. The sight of him pulling the person who had just harmed me into his arms was the last thing I saw. 3 years of love turned out to be nothing but a bloody joke. My consciousness slowly sank into pitch-black darkness. The strong smell of antiseptic was the first thing that woke me up. I slowly opened my eyes. The stark white ceiling of the hospital appeared foreign and cold. My head pounded like it was being struck by a hammer. Every beat of my pulse felt like it was torturing my nerves. I unconsciously reached for my forehead, touching a thick layer of bandages. The memories of last night rushed back like a flood, ruthlessly clear. The ceramic vase, The earth-shattering impact, the warm blood, and that final image, Hunter pulling Willow into his arms. My heart no longer felt pain. It was already dead. It died the night the husband I loved most chose to protect the person who tried to kill me. No tears fell. The sorrow had calcified into a chilling hatred, buried deep in my bones. For 3 years, I lived like a fool, weaving a delusional dream about love, only to be pushed off a cliff by the person I loved the most. The Chloe King of yesterday. The woman who loved Hunter Sterling blindly, died in that mansion. The person waking up today had nothing left but hatred and the determination to take everything back. The hospital room door slowly opened. An older doctor walked in, followed by a nurse. He glanced at the medical chart in his hand, then looked at me with somewhat sympathetic eyes. "Miss King, you are awake. How are you feeling?" "My head hurts a little," I replied, my voice dry. The doctor nodded. "That is a normal reaction. The wound on your forehead was quite deep, requiring 7 stitches. Fortunately, it did not fracture the skull. Miss King, you are truly very lucky. If the impact point had been just 1 centimeter closer to your temple, the consequences would have been unimaginable." "Unimaginable?" I gave a slight smirk. "So it turns out I just took a stroll to the gates of hell and back. Willow Sterling didn't just want to hurt me. She truly wanted to take my life." "Thank you, doctor," I said. "When can I be discharged?" "We need to keep you under observation for at least 2 more days to ensure there are no complications." The doctor gave the nurse a few instructions and left. The room returned to an eerie silence. I looked out the window. Los Angeles was as glamorous and bustling as ever, as if nothing had changed. But my world had completely collapsed and been reborn from the ashes. I reached for the phone on the bedside table. Not a single missed call. Not a single text checking on me from Hunter. He was probably still busy comforting his fragile, weak sister. Good. His heartlessness only made my determination stronger. My hand trembled slightly, not out of fear, but from the thrill of a predator finding its target. I scrolled through my contacts, stopping at the most familiar name. My brother, Carter King. I pressed call. It only rang once before he picked up. "Chloe, what is wrong? Why are you calling me at this hour?" Carter's voice was always filled with worry and affection. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice as calm as possible. A calmness so intense it would make others shudder. "Carter, I am at Mercy General Hospital. VIP room 801. "What?" My brother's tone on the other end instantly changed, his panic and rage unconcealable. "What happened to you? Where is that bastard Hunter? Did he do something to you?" I closed my eyes. The final image of last night resurfaced. "Carter, I was attacked and put in the hospital." I heard my brother take a sharp, furious breath. I opened my eyes, staring blankly into space. "Come take me home." My voice didn't waver, not showing a single hint of weakness. This game had finally come to an end. With that, I hung up. I didn't wait for him to reply. I knew he would come. He would come and take me out of this hell. I put the phone down, looking out at the California sky. I came to this city for love. Now, I would leave with hatred. And I would return soon. Not as Mrs. Sterling, but as Chloe of King Enterprises. Hunter Sterling, Willow Sterling, this blood debt. I will absolutely make you both pay it back with interest. The silence in the hospital room lasted for less than 3 hours. The door to VIP room 801 was violently pushed open. Carter King stood in the doorway, backed by 4 men in black suits. Their imposing aura made even the usually quiet hospital corridor hold its breath. My brother was always like that. No matter where he went, he carried an overwhelming presence that made people afraid to look him in the eye. But the moment his gaze swept over the thick white bandages on my forehead, all his arrogance and coldness shattered, leaving only an unconcealable heartbreak. "Chloe!" He quickly walked to the bed, his voice hoarse. His large hand trembled, wanting to touch my wound, but he didn't dare. I looked at him and gently shook my head. "I am fine." Those 3 words were the spark that ignited the powder keg in Carter's heart. He spun around, roaring at his assistant behind him. "Investigate! Look into it right now! What happened last night? Who dared to touch the sister of Carter King? I want all the information on my desk before the plane takes off." "Yes, sir." He turned back and sat on the edge of the bed, holding my freezing hand. The warmth from his palm transferred to me, giving my cold heart a tiny bit of warmth. "It was that bastard Hunter, wasn't it?" He gritted his teeth, forcing every word out. "Or was it that little witch, Willow? You don't need to investigate." I answered calmly, my eyes devoid of any ripples. It was her, and he chose to stand by her side. My calmness pained Carter more than 1,000 words of crying and complaining. He knew his precious little sister, the one who once defied everything for love, was now truly dead inside. "All right." He took a deep breath, trying to suppress the raging fury in his chest. I understand. We are going home. He stood up, signaling the bodyguard team. All the discharge procedures were handled swiftly and quietly. The hospital director personally came to apologize profusely, but was so terrified by Carter's ice-cold glare that he didn't dare say another word. Throughout the entire process, no one from the Sterling family showed up. No calls, no texts. It was as if the disappearance of me, Mrs. Sterling, had absolutely nothing to do with them. As I sat in the wheelchair being pushed by a bodyguard out of the hospital gates, I didn't look back once. Goodbye, Mercy General Hospital. Goodbye, Los Angeles. Goodbye, my foolish bloody romance. The King family's private jet was waiting at LAX. We went through the VIP terminal without drawing any attention. Sitting on the plane, watching the city shrink beneath my feet, I felt no lingering attachment. This place used to be my dream paradise, but now it was just a living hell I had luckily escaped. The plane touched down at JFK Airport. As soon as I stepped out of the cabin, the familiar, crisp, cold air of my hometown filled my lungs, making me feel more awake than ever. This was home. Our group walked toward the exit. Standing there, leaning against a large pillar, was a tall, familiar figure that made my heart ache. He wore a beige trench coat, a pair of gold-rimmed glasses resting on his straight nose, exuding an elegant and calm aura. Carter nudged my arm. "Look who came to pick you up." I stopped in my tracks. He had seen us too. He slowly took off his glasses and walked toward us. His gaze swept past my brother and stopped on my face. More specifically, on the white bandages on my forehead. For a second, I saw unconcealable pain flash in his usually gentle, water-like eyes. His hand holding the glasses tightened slightly. Owen. I softly called his name. Owen Davis. My childhood friend, the man I grew up with. He didn't say a word, just quietly walked over. He didn't ask what happened. Unlike my roaring brother, he just took off his trench coat and gently draped it over my shoulders, covering my thin hospital clothes. It is winter in New York now. The wind is cold. His deep, warm voice carried an invisible, comforting strength. Let's go home. That simple action, that ordinary sentence, almost made the solid wall I had tried to build collapse. The warmth from his coat, carrying his familiar, clean scent, enveloped me. I lowered my head to hide my eyes, which were starting to burn. Let's go home. Yes, I was finally home. The black Bentley rolled down the familiar road, lined with ginkgo trees that had turned a brilliant yellow. I had been away from this scenery for 3 years. 3 years ago, also in this season, I left this place to chase a love I thought was my whole life. 3 years later, I returned, bringing back a shattered heart and a scar on my forehead. The car stopped in front of the massive gates of the King estate in the Hamptons. The gates slowly opened, revealing the grand mansion bathed in golden afternoon sunlight. My parents were already standing at the door waiting. My mother, a woman who always maintained a noble, elegant facade, had red eyes the moment she saw me step out of the car. She ran over and hugged me tightly, her trembling hand lightly touching the bandages. My baby girl. She choked up, unable to speak, her tears falling freely. My father stood behind her. His usually strict face was etched with anger and heartbreak. He didn't say anything, just patted my shoulder gently. But I knew a tsunami was brewing inside him. Mom, Dad, I am home. I tried to smile, but that smile was uglier than crying. Carter helped me into the house. Mom, Dad, let her rest first. We can talk about the rest later. Owen silently followed behind, carrying my simple luggage. He was like a silent shadow, drawing no attention but always present. My room on the second floor was kept exactly as I had left it. Everything was clean and neat, not a speck of dust. It proved my mother had the maids clean it every single day. The familiar scent of jasmine in the room made me feel at peace. After helping me settle into bed, my parents and brother went down to the living room. I knew they needed a private space to talk. A massive storm was about to crash down on the Sterling family's heads. I was lost in thought when the door slightly opened. It was Owen. He carried a glass of warm milk, placing it on the nightstand. "Drink a little to warm up," he said, his voice as gentle as always. I sat up and took the glass. "Thank you, Owen." He didn't leave immediately, but pulled up a chair and sat next to the bed. He didn't ask what happened in LA. He didn't mention Hunter or Willow. He just sat there quietly, as if his presence alone was a comfort that needed no words. "How have you been these past few years?" I broke the silence. He smiled faintly. "Same old. Just a lowly lawyer facing dry lawsuits every day." I knew he was being modest. Owen Davis was now one of the top corporate lawyers in the country, known as the Golden Hand, who had never lost a case. "I heard my brother say your law firm is expanding rapidly. I guess I'm riding on everyone's coattails." He looked at me, his eyes deep. "And you?" Have you lived well these past 3 years? His question was like a needle gently pricking the wound in my heart. I looked down at the milk in my hands. In the past, no, I answered honestly. But from now on, I will. He didn't say anything more. He just reached out and gently rubbed my head, exactly the way he used to when we were kids. That is the spirit. This is the Chloe I know. In the following days, Owen came by almost every day. He didn't offer empty words of comfort, nor did he try to bring up my sad memories. He simply stayed by my side. He brought books I liked, comedy movies we used to watch together, or just sat in the garden with me, recounting silly childhood stories. One warm winter afternoon, we sat on the swing in the garden. He suddenly asked, "Do you remember that tabby cat you picked up when we were kids?" I nodded. Of course. I named him General. He laughed. Yeah. After you left for the West Coast, he was depressed for days, refusing to eat or drink. I had to bring dried fish every day to bribe him just to get him to eat a little. I was surprised. Really? Really? He looked at me, his eyes full of meaning. It wasn't just General. Everyone missed you very much. My heart fluttered slightly. I understood what he meant. He was like a healing medicine, bit by bit, using his warmth and patience to soothe the wounds in my heart. He didn't try to drag me out of the darkness. He brought the light to me, sitting quietly beside me, waiting for me to step out myself. One evening, after taking my medication, I had trouble sleeping. Owen brought me a comic book. Read this. It is funny. You will sleep better after reading it. I took it, flipped a few pages, and indeed it was full of hilarious short stories. I subconsciously smiled, the first smile after a long string of dark days. Seeing my smile, his eyes lit up with joy. He stood up to leave. Owen, I called out to him. He turned his head to look at me. What is it? Thank you, I said, words coming straight from the bottom of my heart. He just smiled, a smile as warm as winter sunlight. Good night. Everything will be fine. He closed the door. I watched his back, a long-lost feeling of peace welling up inside me. Yes, everything would be fine, because I was home, and I always had someone like him by my side. Hunter Sterling woke up in a cold bedroom. The sunlight piercing through the curtains hit his eyes, making him squint in annoyance. Last night, after dropping Willow off at the old family estate and coaxing her to sleep, he returned to his mansion feeling exhausted and irritated. He thought Chloe was just throwing a tantrum and, at worst, sleeping in the guest room. But the house was unusually quiet. No sounds in the kitchen, no familiar silhouette preparing breakfast. This silence gave him an indescribable sense of emptiness. He walked downstairs. The living room was unusually tidy, and then his eyes stopped on a dark stain on the marble floor, right where Chloe had fallen. Even though the maids had tried to clean it, the dried blood was still there, like a silent accusation. A vague sense of unease rose in Hunter's chest. He frowned, pulling out his phone to call Chloe. The number you have dialed cannot be reached. Please try again later. The automated operator's dry voice echoed. Unreachable. She dared to turn off her phone. The familiar anger flared up again, masking the unease that had just ignited. He assumed this was just another one of her new tricks, a way to get attention, to force him to yield. Fine, Chloe. Let's see how long you can stay stubborn, he muttered, tossing his phone onto the sofa. He took a shower, changed into a sharp suit, and went to the company as usual, trying to act as if her absence didn't affect him at all. But all morning, he couldn't focus on any work. The image of Chloe collapsing in a pool of blood kept flashing in his mind, haunting him endlessly. Finally, unable to bear it, he called his assistant. Vance, go to Mercy General and check which room my wife is in. Less than half an hour later, the assistant called back, his tone somewhat hesitant. Sir, the hospital says the madam went through discharge procedures early this morning. Discharged? Hunter frowned. Who handled the procedures for her? The hospital said it was the madam's family. They refused to provide any further details. Family. Carter King. That name popped into Hunter's head, and the unease from the morning had now morphed into genuine panic. He knew how much Chloe's brother doted on her. This time, the situation was probably not as simple as a temper tantrum. He immediately drove to the hospital, but no matter what title he used from CEO of Sterling Global to the patient's husband, all the hospital staff gave him the exact same answer. Apologies, Mr. Sterling, we cannot disclose patient information. Powerlessness appeared in Hunter Sterling's life for the very first time. He realized that without Chloe by his side, his power in Los Angeles seemed to have its limits. The King family in New York, their influence was not something he could underestimate. He returned to his office in the worst possible mood. Why did this massive office suddenly feel so empty? He unconsciously looked toward the sofa where Chloe used to sit and wait for him to finish work, bringing nutritious soups she made herself. But now, that spot was empty. Sir. Assistant Vance knocked and entered, his face extremely serious. 2 legal documents were just sent to you from a law firm in New York. Hunter frowned. Whose? Assistant Vance didn't say, merely placing 2 thick files on the desk. Hunter picked up the first file. 4 massive words struck his eyes. Petition for divorce. At the bottom, under the signature section, the name Chloe King was signed with bold, decisive strokes. Not a shred of hesitation. Hunter's head rang. Divorce. She actually dared. The pride of a man who always had everything under his control was severely damaged. He was so angry his whole body shook, and he crumpled the document in his hand. Hunter Sterling, without my permission, don't even think about leaving me. He took a deep breath, trying to calm himself. He assumed this was just a scare tactic. He would never sign it. As long as he didn't sign, she would forever remain Mrs. Sterling. He tossed the crumpled petition aside and picked up the second file. This time, the contents inside made him freeze. It was a court summons. Defendant, Willow Sterling. Charge, aggravated assault, causing severe bodily harm. Plaintiff, Chloe King. And in the bottom corner, the name of the plaintiff's representing attorney made Hunter's pupils shrink. Attorney Owen Davis. He had heard Chloe mention this name a few times with an incredibly intimate tone. It was her childhood friend, an undefeated famous lawyer in New York. So that was it. She had already prepared her escape route. She always had another man waiting for her. An irrational fire of jealousy erupted in Hunter's chest. He had never put Chloe first, but he also wouldn't allow her to belong to any other man. Only then did Hunter truly understand. This wasn't a joke, nor was it a temper tantrum. This was a declaration of war. Chloe and the entire King family standing behind her were officially declaring war on him. His world, the world he always thought he could control, was beginning to collapse right before his eyes. And the cause of it all was the very woman he had never cherished. While a storm was brewing in Hunter's heart in LA, the atmosphere at the King estate in New York was unusually solemn. A week passed. Under the meticulous care of my family and Owen Davis, my health recovered significantly. The wound on my forehead had started to scar. Though a faint mark remained, it no longer caused me physical pain. Instead, it was like a badge, a permanent reminder of my past foolishness and my current determination. Today, an official family meeting was held in my father's study. Attendees included my parents, my brother Carter, Owen, and me. There was no longer an atmosphere of heartbreak or comforting. Instead, there was seriousness and an unconcealable aura of bloodlust. Carter was the first to speak. He placed a file on the table. This is all the intel I dug up on Sterling Global's business operations over the past 3 years. Hunter Sterling is indeed a business genius. He took Sterling Global to new heights. However, expanding too fast has left many loopholes. He is overly confident, investing in multiple high-risk projects simultaneously, especially the luxury resort project in Maui, Hawaii. His capital chain is stretched to the limit. If just one link breaks, his entire empire will shake. Owen pushed up his glasses, continuing professionally. Legally, we have a guaranteed win in the case against Willow Sterling. The security camera footage from the mansion and the maid's testimony are crystal clear. We are not only demanding financial compensation, but we can also push for a criminal conviction. This will be a fatal blow to the Sterling family's reputation, making them the laughingstock of high society. My father, who had remained silent the whole time, finally spoke, his deep voice carrying absolute authority. What do you want to do, Chloe? Just say the word and I will make sure Sterling Global ceases to exist on the West Coast. All eyes turned to me. They were waiting for my decision. They were willing to do anything for me. I took a deep breath. I was no longer the weak Chloe who only knew how to cry and rely on others. 3 years of a hellish marriage had taught me too much. Just bankrupting them is too easy. I said, my voice cold but full of resolve. I don't just want to make them pay, I want to take back everything I lost and even more. I looked straight at my dad. Dad, I want to officially join King Enterprises. My proposal caught both my father and brother slightly off guard. I used to only be interested in fashion and art, never wanting to meddle in the family business. Are you serious? Carter asked, his eyes gleaming with joy and pride. Serious. I nodded decisively. I want to take charge of our West Coast expansion project. I want to go to Los Angeles, build a branch of King Enterprises there, and compete directly with Hunter Sterling on his own turf. I want him to see with his own eyes that the woman he abandoned can stand as his equal, and even surpass him. I want him to regret, to be tormented for the rest of his life. That is the sweetest revenge. My father looked at me for a long time, then let out a hearty laugh. Good, very good. Spoken like a true daughter of the King family. Fine, I agree. The entire resources of the corporation will back you up. Do whatever you want to do. Carter also applauded. Brilliant, little sister. I will be your impenetrable rearguard. Only Owen remained silent. He looked at me, a trace of worry flashing in his gentle eyes. He wasn't worried I would fail. He was just worried I would end up hurting myself again. I looked at him and gave a reassuring smile. Owen, I am fine. I am no longer the girl I used to be. The meeting ended. I returned to my room and stood in front of the large mirror. The girl in the mirror still had a slightly pale face, and there was a faint scar on her forehead. But her eyes were completely different. Gone was the naive dreamer, leaving only a sharp, cold gaze and a will forged of steel. The queen has returned, and this time I will crown myself. The news that Chloe King, wife of Sterling Global's CEO, had filed for divorce and was suing her sister-in-law for aggravated assault sent shockwaves through high society. But that earthquake was nothing compared to the tsunami I was about to unleash on the West Coast business world. For the next 2 weeks, I practically lived at the office. With the support of my father and brother, I got my hands on all the intel regarding Sterling Global's upcoming projects. My target was very clear. AT Innovate, a European tech giant, was looking for a strategic partner to enter the US market. Hunter Sterling had been chasing this project for 6 months. He had flown to Europe no fewer than 5 times, giving his all to win over the AT board of directors. According to internal info, the contract was practically in Sterling Global's hands, just waiting for the official signing ceremony next week in Los Angeles. This was an extremely crucial project, the key to Sterling Global cementing its monopoly, and this was exactly the fatal weak point I aimed for. Hunter might be a business genius, but he had a fatal flaw: arrogance. He believed no one could offer a better deal than him. He focused solely on profit margins and numbers, forgetting that business also requires understanding. I spent 3 days and 3 nights researching AT's chairman, Mr. Anderson. He wasn't just a businessman. He was an avid lover of historical art, particularly the Hudson River School movement. Meanwhile, the partnership proposal Hunter presented was full of dry economic jargon, completely ignoring cultural elements. I smiled. This was his loophole. I didn't try to compete on price. Instead, I drafted an entirely new proposal. I proposed a cross-cultural partnership, combining the West's cutting-edge tech with classical American heritage. I even took a flight to Charleston, South Carolina, to track down a renowned art dealer who had access to a rare, authentic Hudson River School landscape painting. A piece I knew Mr. Anderson immensely admired, intended as a welcome gift. Everything was ready. Now all I had to do was wait for the prey to fall into the trap. The signing day took place at the most luxurious hotel in Los Angeles. Hunter appeared with an aura of supreme confidence. He wore a perfectly tailored suit, his cold face unable to hide his triumphant smirk. He believed today would be another glorious day in his career. He and his team sat in the conference room waiting for Mr. Anderson to arrive, but time ticked by, the clock moving 15 minutes past the appointment time, and AT's side had still not shown up. A vague sense of irritation began to creep into Hunter's mind. Right then, the conference room door opened, but the person who walked in wasn't Mr. Anderson. It was his secretary. Apologies for keeping you waiting, Mr. Sterling. The secretary bowed, her attitude incredibly polite. Chairman Anderson has just made a final decision. We regret to inform you that AT has found a more suitable partner for this project. The entire room instantly plunged into silence. The smile on Hunter's lips froze. More suitable? He frowned, his voice lowering with a hint of menace. In Los Angeles, who besides Sterling Global is qualified to be your partner? The secretary gave a mysterious smile. Mr. Sterling, perhaps you have underestimated this market. Our new partner might be a rising name on the West Coast, but they have an incredibly solid foundation and a vision that deeply impressed our chairman. She gestured. The door to the adjacent conference room opened. Mr. Anderson was sitting there. Beside him was a woman wearing an elegant white power suit, radiating an imposing aura. When that woman turned her head and smiled in this direction, Hunter's pupils violently contracted. His entire confidence and arrogance collapsed in the blink of an eye. That person was none other than me. I raised the glass of wine in my hand, aiming it at him, and flashed a radiant smile. CEO Sterling, long time no see. Thank you for giving up such an excellent partner to me. Hunter's face went pale, then flushed red with fury. He clenched his hands into tight fists, veins bulging visibly. He glared at me, his eyes looking like they wanted to eat me alive. This was the first welcome gift I had prepared for him. A shock big enough to wake him from his delusion, to let him know that the Chloe King he looked down on had returned and would become the most formidable rival in his life. Assistant Vance hurriedly ran to Hunter's side, whispering anxiously, Sir, we should leave. Hunter let out a growl, sweeping the water glasses off the table in front of him. He couldn't believe it. He couldn't accept this reality. He had been spectacularly outplayed by the very wife he abandoned. This wasn't just a business failure. This was a humiliation that could never be washed away. He stared at me as I leisurely chatted with Mr. Anderson. For the first time in his life, he felt a sensation called fear. He realized this woman was someone he could no longer control. Hunter's fury after losing AT Innovate lasted for 2 whole days. All the top executives at Sterling Global lived in fear. No one dared to breathe heavily in front of him. He had smashed countless items in his office, yet he couldn't erase the image of my provocative smile from that day. He couldn't just sit and wait to die. Immediately, he booked a flight and flew alone to New York. He had to see me. He had to demand an explanation. He had to take back what he lost. The headquarters of King Enterprises was located in the tallest skyscraper in downtown Manhattan, a symbol of power and wealth. Hunter stood in the lobby, looking up at the skyscraper, a foreign feeling welling up inside him. This was my world, a territory he had never set foot in. Riding on his reputation, he had no trouble getting up to the top floor, where the executive offices were located. My secretary stopped him at the door. "Apologies, sir. Vice President King is in a meeting. Do you have an appointment?" "Tell her Hunter Sterling wants to see her," he said coldly, completely ignoring the secretary's attitude. The secretary looked slightly awkward but went inside to notify me. A moment later, she came out, nodding and inviting him in. My office was designed in a minimalist yet luxurious style. One entire wall was floor-to-ceiling glass, offering a panoramic view of the New York skyline. I sat behind a polished black ebony desk, intently reading a file. Even when he walked in, I didn't look up. This dismissal made Hunter feel like he'd been slapped by an invisible hand. He strode over to my desk, placed both hands on it, and leaned down, trying to exert an invisible pressure. "Chloe, what is the meaning of this?" Only then did I slowly look up. I took off my gold-rimmed glasses, setting them aside, and looked at him calmly. The scar on my forehead had faded significantly, but it was still there like a silent reminder. "CEO Sterling, I have no idea what you are talking about," I replied, my tone distant and professional. "If you came here to discuss business, please sit down. But if this is a personal matter, I'm afraid I don't have the time." "Personal matter?" he sneered. "You stole my partner, caused billions in losses for Sterling Global, and now you are telling me it is a personal matter? Stole?" I raised an eyebrow. "In business, there are only winners and losers. Since when is there stealing? Don't tell me CEO Sterling has been in business this long and still doesn't understand this simple logic. Or are you so used to winning that you can't accept defeat?" Every word I said was as sharp as a knife, piercing straight through his pride. "You!" He choked on his words, his face flushing with anger. He tried to restrain himself, softening his tone. "Chloe, let's not be like this, okay? I know I was wrong. I apologize. Please drop the lawsuit, and let's go home and start over." He was trying to play the emotional card again, the very thing that once kept me blindly devoted. But now, it only made me feel ridiculous. "Start over?" I scoffed. "Hunter, do you think I am still the same fool from 3 years ago? This scar on my forehead. Can you make it disappear? My dead heart. Can you bring it back to life? As long as you come back, I will give you anything you want," he said hastily. There was a panic in his voice that he could not hide. "What I want now, I can grab it myself. I don't need you to bestow it upon me." I stood up and walked toward the window, turning my back to him. "The only thing I want from you now is your signature on the divorce papers." "Impossible," he roared. "Chloe, we are still husband and wife. Don't even dream of escaping me." He stepped forward, reaching out to grab my hand, but right at that moment, the office door clicked open. Owen Davis walked in, carrying a cup of hot coffee. He wore a sharp gray suit, looking incredibly dashing. He saw Hunter but didn't act surprised at all, as if his presence was completely ordinary. "Chloe, here is your coffee." He placed the cup on the desk, his voice as gentle as water. "I just reviewed the contract with AT. There are a few clauses we need to discuss." He treated Hunter like complete air. The appearance of Owen Davis, along with his intimate attitude toward me, was like a bucket of ice water poured directly onto the blazing fire of jealousy inside Hunter. "Who are you?" Hunter turned, glaring at Owen. Owen then turned to look at him, pushing up his glasses slightly, and gave a polite smile. "Hello, Mr. Sterling. I am Owen Davis, Miss, King's representing attorney, and also her business partner." He deliberately emphasized the words, business partner. "Well then, Attorney Davis, please step outside. I have private matters to discuss with my wife." Hunter emphasized the words, my wife. I turned around, walked to Owen's side, and naturally linked my arm through his. CEO Sterling, you are mistaken. I smiled at him, a victorious smile. There is no wife of yours here, only Vice President King and her lawyer. If you don't have any business-related matters, please leave. We still have a lot of work to do. Hunter stood rooted to the spot. He looked at me standing beside another man, looking incredibly well-matched. He saw the chemistry in our eyes, an understanding that he and I had never shared. For the first time, he felt a sensation called total defeat. He didn't say another word, just turned and strode out of the office. But I knew this confrontation had only just begun. He would never give up that easily. The face-off with Hunter in the office had drained my last ounce of strength. When his angry and defeated back disappeared behind the door, I felt my whole body go soft, having to hold onto the edge of the desk just to stay standing. Even though I had the upper hand in this war, it left me incredibly exhausted. Owen quietly stepped forward and supported my elbow. You are tired. Get some rest. I shook my head, forcing a smile. I am fine, just suddenly feeling a bit empty. I had chased the enemy away, but the joy of victory wasn't complete, because to get to today I had paid too high a price. That night, I stayed at the office working until late. The numbers, the proposals stacked on my desk helped me temporarily forget the chaotic emotions inside me. The entire building had fallen silent, leaving only the light spilling from my office. Lonely and isolated in the New York night, the door softly opened. Owen walked in. He didn't bring coffee or late-night snacks, but a thick file, looking even larger than the pile of paperwork on my desk. You haven't gone home yet? He set the file down, his tone slightly reproachful. You cannot work yourself to death like this. I can't sleep. I massaged my aching temples. Work makes me feel like I am still alive. He looked at me silently for a moment, then pushed the file toward me. Then take a look at this. Maybe it will help you sleep better. Curiously, I picked it up. The cover had a simple title, Comprehensive Support Plan for Chloe King. I was surprised and flipped to the first page. This wasn't a business plan. It was divided into 3 main sections. Part 1, Legal Support. It detailed every statute that could be used against Hunter and Willow, countermeasures for legal tricks Sterling Global might pull, and even forecasted potential risks. Part 2, Business Support. It offered a profound analysis of Sterling Global's weaknesses, proposed strategic directions for King Enterprises, and explained how his investment firm could coordinate to apply maximum pressure. But the thing that stunned me the most was Part 3, Personal Support. It contained a highly scientific schedule balancing work and rest. There was a menu of meals to boost health and reduce stress, a list of top-tier therapists, and peaceful travel destinations suited for relaxation. This wasn't a plan. This was a shield, a sturdy fortress he had built to protect me. I looked up at him with eyes full of disbelief. My throat choked up, unable to form words. Owen looked straight into my eyes. Under the soft light, his gaze was incredibly gentle and sincere. Chloe, I know you are strong. I know you can face everything on your own, he said, his voice deep and steady. But I don't want you to fight alone. He stepped closer, standing right in front of me. For the past 3 years, I regretted it every single day. I regretted not having the courage back then to make you stay. I let you go to a strange city all alone, to endure pain you should never have had to bear. He placed his hand on the file. My feelings aren't just empty words. They are right here in every page of this plan. I want to be your strongest rearguard, Chloe. He took a deep breath, as if summoning the courage of a lifetime. Give me a chance, will you? A chance to take care of you and protect you. No roses, no candles, no romantic promises. His confession was so practical and sincere that it made my cold heart tremble. This was the warmth, the security I had craved for 3 years. A love that wasn't Hunter's selfish possessiveness, but a silent, protective sacrifice. I didn't answer immediately. I just quietly closed the file, hugging it to my chest like a treasure. Tears this time not from pain but from being moved rolled down my cheeks. I looked up at him and smiled. A genuine smile for the first time after a long stretch of darkness. That smile was my answer. After being neglected by Hunter and receiving the court summons, Willow Sterling fell into complete panic. She was used to being sheltered, used to being treated as the center of the universe. Now, as her biggest pillar of support started to shake, she had to find her own way to survive. And the path she chose was to try and reclaim her image as an innocent, pitiful young lady in high society, while building new connections for self-preservation. She heard about the Golden Heart charity auction held in New York City, an event gathering all the elite families of the East Coast. This was a perfect opportunity for her to show up, display her compassion, and find allies. She had no idea that the invitation she worked so hard to get was intentionally leaked by my brother. Carter King. This auction was a perfect trap we had set, just waiting for the prey to walk right in. The night of the auction, Willow appeared in a pristine white dress, her makeup light and ethereal. She tried to act timid and frail. Everywhere she went, she cleverly whined about being wronged, claiming she was just the victim of a misunderstanding, that her sister-in-law, Chloe, was too sensitive and tyrannical. Many people who didn't know the inside story saw her pitiful act and somewhat believed her. Our plan began. Carter arranged for a friend, Tyler Hayes, the heir to a rising real estate empire in Boston, to proactively approach Willow. Tyler had a handsome playboy look, and his words were as sweet as honey. He walked up to Willow, raising his glass. "Hello, Miss Sterling. I am Tyler Hayes. I never expected to meet someone as beautiful and compassionate as you here." Willow immediately blushed, acting shy. In the face of Tyler's praise, she quickly dropped her guard. Tyler feigned sympathy, lowering his voice. "Actually, I heard some rumors. New York high society is complicated. Chloe King is famously arrogant, spoiled since childhood. I can't believe she would treat such a lovely girl like you that way." Willow felt as if she had found a soulmate. She immediately unleashed a barrage of complaints and lies. "Tyler, you have no idea. She was always jealous of the bond between Hunter and me. She always found ways to pick fights with me. That injury, it really wasn't even that serious. She intentionally blew it out of proportion to get everyone's pity. She wanted to use that to drive a wedge between us siblings." As she spoke, she got more and more fired up, completely oblivious to the maple leaf lapel pin on Tyler's jacket. It was a micro camera. The entire conversation, along with her vicious fake expressions, was being live-streamed to a VIP room on the second floor. There, my mother and a few of the most powerful society matrons in New York, her close friends, sat watching an excellent play. After Willow had said enough, Tyler smiled, used the excuse of taking a phone call, and left. Willow was still basking in the feeling of finding someone who understood her, completely unaware that disaster was about to strike. A few minutes later, as the MC was introducing the next auction item, the giant LED screen behind the stage suddenly glitched. The image of the item vanished, replaced by a video. It was the exact conversation that had just occurred. Willow's face was magnified, every single word she said echoing through the ballroom sound system. She intentionally blew it out of proportion to get everyone's pity. The video only played for about 10 seconds before the tech crew hurriedly shut it off, and the screen returned to normal. But 10 seconds was more than enough. The entire silent ballroom instantly erupted into whispers. Every single gaze simultaneously locked onto Willow Sterling. The sympathetic looks from earlier turned into contempt, disgust, and mockery. "Oh my God, I can't believe she is that kind of person. What a manipulative snake. You really can't judge a book by its cover. How terrifying, to dare talk about her own sister-in-law like that." Willow stood frozen in the middle of the ballroom. Her face was as white as a sheet of paper, her fake smile stiff on her lips. She trembled as she looked around, only seeing gazes like daggers aimed straight at her. She finally understood. This was a trap. A perfectly orchestrated trap designed to strip off her true face in front of all of high society. The reputation she tried so hard to build, the image she painstakingly painted, it all shattered into pieces in just 10 short seconds. The day of the trial, the Los Angeles sky was as gloomy as the moods of the people involved. The divorce of Sterling Global's CEO and the scandal of the sister-in-law assaulting the wife became the hottest topic, attracting all the media. Dozens of reporters swarmed the courthouse gates early in the morning. Cameras and video lenses were raised like black gun barrels, ready to aim at the main characters. A black Maybach pulled up, the door opened, and Hunter stepped out. He wore an expensive suit, his face as cold as a moving iceberg, but his bloodshot eyes betrayed his exhaustion and stress. He opened the other door and helped Willow out. She wore a long ash-gray dress, her face pale without a trace of color, her eyes puffy from crying. After the incident at the charity auction, no one believed her pitiful young lady act anymore. Now, her husband was just a pathetic failure. Camera flashes went off constantly. The clicking of shutters sounded rapid. Fire. Hunter used his body to shield Willow, struggling to make it inside the courthouse. A few minutes later, an elegant white Bentley parked. Owen Davis stepped out first. He wore a perfectly tailored suit, exuding the refined yet razor-sharp aura of a top-tier lawyer. He walked around and opened the car door for me. I stepped out. Today I chose a burgundy red women's power suit, projecting strength and authority. My hair was tied up neatly, revealing the scar on my forehead that had faded considerably. I didn't hide it at all. I wanted it to be evidence, a reminder to everyone of what I had been through. I linked my arm with Owen, holding my head high, walking the red carpet created by the media. My eyes were calm, devoid of any fear or weakness. I was no longer a victim. I was someone here to demand justice. The trial began. The atmosphere in the courtroom was solemnly suffocating. Owen, acting as my representing attorney, stood up to present his case. His voice was neither too loud nor too soft, but every word was clear, forceful, and carried immense weight. He presented the evidence one by one. First was the video extracted from the mansion's security cameras. The large screen replayed the entire horrifying scene from that night. The scene where a manic Willow threw the heavy ceramic vase at me. The scene of me collapsing in a pool of blood. The entire courtroom erupted in terrified gasps. Willow's face grew whiter by the second, her whole body shaking violently. Next, Owen submitted the medical injury assessment report. Your Honor, according to the doctor's conclusion, my client's wound was 6 centimeters long, requiring 7 stitches. The impact site was just 1 centimeter from her temple. If the force had been slightly harder or the angle slightly off, the consequence could have been fatal. This was clearly not an accidental act, but an intentional act of aggravated assault with an extremely high level of danger. Sterling Global's defense attorney tried to argue that Willow was merely heavily provoked and lost control of her actions, but Owen immediately shut it down. He projected the short video from the charity auction. Your Honor, this is a video recorded just a few days ago. The defendant, Willow Sterling, in a fully conscious state, made slanderous, fabricated, and highly malicious statements about my client. This proves that the defendant's actions were not spontaneous, but stemmed from long-standing jealousy and hatred. Willow sat at the defendant's stand, sobbing uncontrollably. No, it wasn't like that. I didn't mean to. I just loved Hunter too much. I was afraid my sister-in-law would leave him. Owen looked at her, his gaze icy. You were afraid Miss Chloe King would leave your brother, so you used a 10-pound ceramic vase to smash her head? Your logic is truly astonishing, Miss Sterling. Every excuse she made became meaningless in the face of irrefutable evidence. Finally, after deliberation, the judge banged the gavel, delivering the final verdict. The Los Angeles Superior Court rules on the divorce case. The court grants the divorce petition of the plaintiff, Miss Chloe King. The marriage between Miss Chloe King and Mr. Hunter Sterling is officially terminated as of today. Regarding the criminal case, the defendant, Willow Sterling, is guilty of aggravated assault. Considering the defendant has shown remorse and the act did not result in the most severe consequences, the court sentences the defendant, Willow Sterling, to 2 years in prison, suspended, with a probation period of 3 years. Additionally, the defendant must pay the victim, Miss Chloe King, the sum of $10 million in compensation for physical and emotional damages. When the verdict was read, Willow collapsed, fainting into Hunter's arms. 2 years of probation. That would be a stain following her for the rest of her life. The reputation of the Sterling family's young miss was completely destroyed. I stood up, not looking in their direction one more time. Owen and I walked out of the courtroom together. The bright midday sun hit my eyes, but I didn't feel uncomfortable at all. On the contrary, I felt an unprecedented sense of freedom. The Chloe of the past was buried in this courtroom. From today on, I had been reborn. Hunter stood in the chaotic courtroom, watching my straight back disappear into the distance. For the first time, he felt such a distinct sense of loss. He had lost it. He had truly lost it. The court's verdict was like a stone thrown into a calm lake, creating endlessly expanding ripples. Sterling Global's stock began to plummet right in the afternoon trading session. The family scandal, coupled with the failure of the AT Innovate deal, caused investors' faith in the Sterling empire to waver. Hunter returned to the company in the worst possible state. He locked himself in his office, refusing to see anyone. But the problems didn't magically disappear. An emergency board meeting was called the next day. The tension in the boardroom was as tight as a bowstring. The major shareholders, people who used to look at him with admiration and reverence, now wore expressions of questioning and anxiety. CEO Sterling, can you explain to us what is going on? An older major shareholder, Mr. Lee, spoke first. Why did the AT contract fall into King Enterprises' hands? And all the negative news about your family lately. It is severely damaging the corporation's image. Hunter sat at the head of the table, his face dark. The AT issue was just an unexpected accident. As for my family matters, it is private. I will handle it myself. It will not affect the company's business. Not affect? Another younger shareholder sneered. CEO Sterling, take a look at our stock price. 15% of it evaporated in just 2 days. Investors are panic selling. Banks are starting to hesitate on the loan for the Maui project. You say it doesn't affect anything. Who believes that? The luxury resort project in Maui was Hunter's most ambitious endeavor. He had poured a massive amount of capital into it, basically going all in. The capital chain for this project was already strained, relying heavily on bank loans and market confidence. Now, both of those factors were in trouble. The Maui project will have no issues. Hunter tried to reassure them. I have a backup plan. But his words no longer carried the weight they used to. Suspicion began to spread across the boardroom. What plan? Where do you plan to get the money to keep pouring into that bottomless pit? Mr. Lee slammed the table. Hunter, we handed this corporation to you because we trusted your talent, not so you could use it as a tool to settle personal vendettas. The meeting ended in chaos and division. For the first time, Hunter's absolute authority over the board of directors was challenged. He realized the empire he built with his own hands was not as invincible as he thought. The following days were a nightmare. Business partners began to shy away. New contracts were delayed. Even worse, several top executives, people who had followed him since the early days, started resigning. The Sterling Global ship was showing signs of sinking, and the smartest rats are always the first to jump off. The final blow came from the bank. They officially refused to disburse the next loan installment for the Maui project, citing market risks as being too high. The Maui project, Hunter's dream, officially collapsed without capital. It became nothing but an unfinished construction site and a mountain of debt. To salvage the situation, he was forced to sell off parts of the project to recover funds and pay the bank. The buyer was none other than a rising investment firm. A firm that, after digging deeper, Hunter discovered was secretly backed by King Enterprises and Owen Davis's law firm. They bought the most prime real estate of the project at dirt cheap prices. Smash! Hunter hurled his phone at the wall, shattering it into pieces. He slumped into his chair, radiating an unprecedented aura of helplessness and defeat. He had lost. He lost miserably. He had vastly underestimated me, underestimated the vengeance of a woman pushed into a corner. I didn't just want a divorce. I didn't just want justice. I wanted to destroy everything he was most proud of. He sat alone in his pitch-black office, looking out at the glamorous Los Angeles skyline. The city was as dazzling as ever, but his kingdom was shaking to its very core. He suddenly thought of Chloe. He remembered how, over the past 3 years, no matter how cold he was, she was always there, quietly waiting. But now, she was gone, and she came back to deal him a fatal blow. Meanwhile, in my office in New York, the atmosphere was the exact opposite. I received a call from Carter. Good news, little sister. We successfully acquired the heart of the Maui project. That sterling brat is probably coughing up blood in anger right now. I looked out the window at the towering skyscrapers of New York City lighting up. I gave a slight smile. A cold yet entirely satisfied smile. Carter. This is just the beginning. In this chess game, I will be the one making the final move. Hunter returned to the old Sterling family estate completely drunk. The strong stench of alcohol mixed with the smell of failure and despair enveloped him. This was where he and Willow grew up together, a place filled with memories he once thought were beautiful. But now, looking back, he only found it ironic. He stumbled into the living room, roughly loosening his tie, and collapsed onto the sofa. His head was spinning. The image of a cold Chloe at the courthouse, the image of her standing beside Owen, and the image of his collapsing empire kept flashing, torturing him. Willow heard the noise and rushed down the stairs. These past few days, she had been living in fear and anxiety. The court's verdict, society's contempt, and most importantly, Hunter's coldness toward her. Everything made her feel like she had fallen into hell. Hunter, you are home. She walked over, sitting beside him, trying to act gentle and caring like before. Did you drink? Let me make you some hangover tea. She reached out to touch his forehead but was brutally swatted away. Do not touch me, he roared, his bloodshot eyes glaring at her. Willow flinched, her whole body trembling. This was the first time he had ever treated her like this. Hunter, what is wrong? Is it because of the company? Don't worry, everything will be fine. It is all that bitch Chloe's fault. She is the one who did this to us. She was still trying to pin all the blame on me, still believing she was innocent. And that was exactly what ignited the volcano smoldering inside Hunter. That bitch? He burst out laughing, a laugh full of bitterness and self-mockery. Willow Sterling, what right do you have to talk about her like that? Look at yourself. Look at all the idiotic things you have done. He suddenly stood up, grabbed her by the shoulders, and shook her violently. If it wasn't for you, would things have ever gotten this bad? If it wasn't for you stupidly throwing that vase, would we have gotten divorced? If it wasn't for you thinking you were so smart, running to New York to make a fool of yourself, would the Sterling family's reputation be ruined? Every single word he spoke was like a knife stabbing straight into Willow's heart. She was stunned, unable to believe her ears. The brother who always protected her, who always enabled all her actions, was now blaming her for everything. Hunter, How could you say that about me? She burst into sobs. I did everything for you. I was afraid of losing you. I love you. In her panic, she blurted out the secret she had buried for so long. But this delayed confession now only made Hunter feel disgusted. Love me? He laughed loudly, as if he had just heard the funniest joke in the world. Your love is destroying my career, turning me into a clown in the eyes of the world? Willow, you are too naive. Or rather, you are too selfish. The sick obsession he once had for her had completely turned into disgust. He realized the angel he had always tried to protect was actually a devil in disguise. Her very existence ruined his life, stealing away the only woman who could have given him a real family. Let me tell you something. He leaned into her ear, gritting out every word. The biggest mistake of my life was not losing Chloe, but letting you come back. That sentence was crueler than 1,000 slaps. It completely shattered Willow's world. She looked at him, her eyes wide with absolute despair. The love, the protection, it was all a lie. You are a bastard, she screamed, using all her strength to push him away. Hunter stumbled back a few steps. He looked at her, his eyes devoid of any affection, leaving only coldness and alienation. He didn't say another word, just turned and strode out of the house that was once their home. The door slammed shut with a dry thud. Willow collapsed onto the cold floor, wailing in despair. Their twisted relationship had finally reached its end in ruin and hatred. The illusion was shattered, leaving only a brutal reality. The West Coast branch of King Enterprises, under my management, quickly got on track and grew at breakneck speed. The Maui project, after we took it over, was completely restructured into a high-end eco-resort, earning praise from experts and high anticipation from the market. I was no longer living in Hunter's shadow. I had single-handedly built my own kingdom. Confidence and radiance returned to my face. I no longer had to force myself to appear strong, because I had truly become strong from the inside out. And the person who always stood by my side, witnessing and contributing to that change, was Owen Davis. Our feelings for each other were not intensely passionate. They were like a warm, quiet stream, slowly seeping into every corner of my once barren heart. He was my most in-sync partner at work, my most understanding friend in life, and the only man who made me feel at peace. One weekend afternoon, Owen suddenly said he wanted to take me somewhere. He didn't say where, just told me to dress comfortably. His car didn't head toward the bustling downtown, but toward the quiet suburbs. Finally, the car stopped in front of an old elementary school that had been repainted in a warm, creamy yellow. I was surprised. This was the exact elementary school we used to attend together. I heard the school is about to be demolished and rebuilt into a complex. I wanted to look at it with you one last time. He smiled, holding my hand. We walked around the empty schoolyard. Childhood memories rushed back. The old oak tree where we used to play hide and seek. The swing set where I used to cry softly and he would comfort me. The classroom window where he would secretly look at me. Everything was so heart-achingly familiar. Sunset fell, painting the entire schoolyard in a brilliant orange gold. Owen led me to the largest ginkgo tree in the yard. He suddenly stopped, turned to look at me, his eyes gentle and deep. Chloe, do you remember? In 5th grade. Under this tree, you said that when you grew up, you wanted to build a house with a huge garden full of white roses. I froze. It was so long ago I had almost forgotten, yet he still remembered. And I said, he continued, his deep voice resonating, that I would be the one to help you build that garden. He slowly got down on one knee. My heart started beating wildly. He pulled a small velvet box out of his coat pocket. Chloe, the past is gone, and the pain is behind us. He opened the box. Inside was a platinum ring with an exquisite design. The center diamond wasn't overly large, but was cut perfectly. Surrounding it were smaller diamonds clustered in the shape of a white rose. Let me be your future, will you? He looked straight into my eyes, his voice sincere and resolute. I can't promise you the most extravagant life, but I promise to give you a real home. A place with laughter, respect, and love. A place where you will never have to cry alone again. Tears uncontrollably rolled down my face, but this time they were tears of happiness. This man, he didn't just love me. He understood me, cherishing every tiny dream I had. Without a moment of hesitation, I nodded through my tears. Yes, he smiled radiantly, carefully sliding the ring onto my ring finger. It fit perfectly, as if it was born just for me. He stood up and pulled me into a tight, warm embrace. Under the sunset, we shared a gentle kiss, marking a brand new beginning. That night, I didn't call or text anyone. I just quietly posted a photo on my Instagram, a picture of my hand wearing the sparkling engagement ring, enveloped in the large, warm hand of Owen Davis. The caption consisted of 3 simple words, yet it contained all my happiness. Next chapter begins. That photo was like a silent time bomb sent out across thousands of miles, exploding in the dark, lonely world of a man in Los Angeles. Hunter sat alone in his pitch-black office. The bottle of premium whiskey on the desk was half empty. The phone screen was still lit, displaying the photo he had been staring at for 2 straight hours. Chloe's hand was pale and slender, her ring finger bearing a sparkling white rose diamond ring. And wrapping around that hand was another hand, large, sturdy, and warm. Owen Davis's hand. She was engaged. She was about to become another man's wife. This truth was like an invisible monster gnawing at his mind, tearing his chest apart. A severe pain, worse than 10,000 knives stabbing him, flared up from the depths of his heart. This pain wasn't because his pride was hurt, nor because of his defeat. It was a feeling of genuine loss, a regret so late it made him want to go insane. He used to hold that hand. That hand used to cook hot soup just for him, learned how to brew his tea, and stayed up all night taking care of him when he was sick. But what did he do? He knocked over the hot soup, complained about the tea, and considered her care an annoyance. He personally pushed that hand away, only for it to now rest securely in the arms of another man. An uncontrollable rage erupted. He grabbed his phone and dialed Chloe's familiar number. The number you have dialed is not accepting calls from your number. Blocked. She had blocked him. He nearly went crazy, smashing his phone violently against the wall, but just a few seconds later, he frantically picked it up. Luckily, it wasn't broken. Shaking, he went to his contacts and found another number. Carter King. It rang for a long time before someone picked up. Hello? Carter's voice on the other end was lazy and full of mockery. CEO Sterling calling in the middle of the night. To what do I owe the pleasure? Where is Chloe? Hunter roared, his voice hoarse from alcohol and rage. Tell her to pick up the phone. Why are you asking me for someone else's fiancé? Carter sneered. Hunter, you lost that right a long time ago. Oh well, I don't have time to talk to you anyway. My future brother-in-law is waiting for me to grab a few celebratory drinks. With that, Carter hung up without a shred of hesitation. This humiliation was the final drop that made the cup overflow. Hunter let out a scream like a wounded beast, throwing his phone at the computer monitor with all his might. A loud crash echoed. The screen shattered, sparking with electricity before dying out completely. Just like his last hope, he began smashing his solid wood desk, flipping it over. Documents flew everywhere. Bookcases were toppled. The trophies celebrating his glorious career fell and shattered into pieces. The entire office, once the symbol of his power and success, was now just a desolate ruin. He slumped down on the floor amidst the wreckage he created. He grabbed the whiskey bottle and chugged it straight down. The spicy liquid burned his throat but couldn't soothe the pain burning his soul. He had truly lost her. Not losing a wife in name, not losing a business ally, but losing Chloe. Losing the only woman in this world who loved him unconditionally, who was once willing to give up the entire world for him. He used to think she was annoying, that her existence was a burden. But now, when she truly left, he finally realized how massive the void she left behind was. He missed her voice, missed her smile, even missed her temper tantrums. He missed it all. Regret was like a venomous snake slowly constricting his heart, suffocating him. For the next few days, Hunter drowned himself completely in alcohol and despair. He didn't go to the office, didn't answer calls, and cut all contact with the outside world. Sterling Global was already in a free fall, and now, without its captain, it descended into total chaos. Shareholders panic sold their stock, top executives resigned in droves. The empire he spent his youth building was collapsing at an unstoppable rate, but he didn't care anymore. A fallen kingdom could be rebuilt, but a person lost could never be found again. He just sat there in the dark room, day after day, mumbling a single name. Chloe. The government bidding for the Smart City project was held at the National Convention Center. This wasn't just a regular business project. It had strategic significance, representing the future of an entire industry. For other corporations, this was a golden opportunity, but for Sterling Global, it was their very last lifeline. Hunter finally showed up. He had shaved and wore a crisp suit, trying to hide his haggard, exhausted appearance from days of drinking. But his sunken, lifeless eyes gave it all away. He was no longer the arrogant, confident king of the past, just a fake monarch trying to protect his crumbling kingdom. He sat in the designated section for Sterling Global, staring blankly ahead, and then he saw them. Owen and I walked into the auditorium together. I wore a cobalt blue suit, radiating confidence and power. Owen wore a light gray suit, elegant and steady. He held my hand, looking at me with absolute doting pride. We looked like a match made in heaven, exuding a halo of happiness and success that made everyone in the room turn their heads. Our appearance was like a final knife plunging straight into Hunter's heavily scarred heart. He saw the radiant smile on my lips, a smile he never had. He saw the chemistry in our eyes, an understanding that needed no words. This was the most brutal psychological torture. The bidding began. The representative for Sterling Global nervously walked up to present. Their proposal wasn't bad. It still carried the hallmark of a massive corporation, but it lacked breakthrough and vitality. It was just like their CEO right now, merely a shadow of the past. Then it was the King Davis Alliance's turn. I didn't let anyone else present. I walked up to the podium myself. My appearance sent a buzz through the room. I didn't use dry economic jargon. I started with a story. A story about a dream city where technology and humanity become one, where progress doesn't come at the cost of the environment. Our proposal wasn't just numbers. It was a vision, a dream. We cleverly integrated the eco-resort concepts from the Maui project, turning Hunter's failure into the highlight of our success. My voice was confident, clear, and resonated throughout the auditorium. I was no longer the heiress who hid behind her husband. I was a true leader, shining with my own light. Hunter sat below, quietly watching. He looked at the woman standing on stage, both foreign and familiar. He realized this woman, with her talent and aura, could have been his greatest pride, the queen standing by his side. But he himself had thrown away the most precious gem, the Q&A session. An expert asked a tough question regarding data security. I didn't flinch, smiling as I answered fluently, offering solutions that were both creative and feasible. My intelligence and sharpness completely won over the evaluation board. The results were announced, right as expected. The winning bid for the Smart City project goes to the alliance of King Enterprises and Davis Investment Group. Applause erupted. Katter Kalzenarowan and I stood up, bowing in thanks to everyone. I glanced toward Hunter. He was still sitting there, as motionless as a statue. Our eyes met for a split second. In his eyes, I didn't see anger or hatred. There was only a pitiful emptiness. This was the final blow. Sterling Global had completely lost all hope. People gradually left the auditorium, leaving Hunter sitting there alone. In the terrifying silence, the lights in the room dimmed, leaving only a faint glow creeping in from the door. He saw his reflection on the dark glass window, a middle-aged man with a gaunt face, lifeless eyes, wearing an expensive suit that couldn't hide his miserable defeat. A king without a kingdom. A loser. After winning the Smart City project, my workload only increased. I was practically constantly flying between New York and Los Angeles to monitor the progress. That night, after a meeting that dragged late into the night at the LA branch, Owen and I left together. We walked down to the underground parking garage. The air was cold and silent. Owen went ahead to get the car while I waited near the elevator doors. While scrolling through emails on my phone, a silhouette suddenly emerged from behind a nearby concrete pillar, blocking my path. Startled, I looked up. The strong stench of alcohol and cheap cigarettes assaulted my nose. Under the dim yellow lights of the garage, a haggard face with unkempt stubble and bloodshot eyes appeared. If it weren't for the expensive, wrinkled suit he wore, I wouldn't have recognized him as Hunter Sterling. The emperor who once summoned the wind and rain on the West Coast now looked no different from a desperate vagrant. "Chloe!" He called my name, his voice hoarse and trembling. Reflexively, I took a step back, keeping a safe distance, my disgust overpowering my surprise. "CEO Sterling, what are you doing here?" I came to see you." He took a step forward, but seeing the guarded look in my eyes, he stopped. "Chloe, I was wrong. I was truly wrong. Can you forgive me?" He was begging me. The proud man who never bowed his head to anyone. Now, he was standing before me in a pathetic state. If it were the old me, I might have softened, but now, all that remained in my heart was a terrifying calmness. "Forgive you?" I smirked faintly, a smile with absolutely no warmth. "Hunter, do you think an apology can wipe away everything? Do you think your delayed regret has any value to me? You know it is impossible," he said frantically, his voice filled with panic. "But I can't live without you. Chloe, since you left, I finally realized how important you are to me. That house without you. It is not a home anymore. The company without you. All my success means nothing. I love you. Chloe, love, how ridiculous." When I craved to hear those two words the most, he never said them. Now when I no longer needed them, he blurted them out so easily. "Your love is so cheap, Hunter," I replied coldly. "Does your love mean enabling your sister to send me to the hospital? Does your love mean leaving me in a pool of blood to go comfort her? Does your love mean watching me get humiliated and claiming I was the one causing trouble?" Every question was like a hammer smashing into his chest. His face grew whiter by the second. I was possessed by demons. I was wrong, he stammered, trying to find an excuse to justify himself. Chloe, can we start over? I will kick Willow out. I will give you all of Sterling Global. Just come back to me. I looked deep into his desperate eyes, and for the first time, I felt pity for him. Pity for a pathetic man who ruined his own happiness with his own hands. I slowly raised my hand, sweeping my hair aside to reveal the faded scar on my forehead. Under the lights, it was still clearly visible. Hunter, do you see this? He stared at the scar, his whole body stiffening. This is the only thing you left me. My voice was calm, but every word was as sharp as a knife. It reminds me every day of my past foolishness. It reminds me of your choice that day. Between me and her, you chose her. I dropped my hand, hiding the scar. So now, stop interfering with my happiness. Your regret has no value to me whatsoever. With that, I slipped past him, ready to leave. He suddenly grabbed my arm. Don't go. Chloe, I beg you, let go of her. A steady, authoritative voice rang out. The white Bentley had already pulled up right beside us. Owen stepped out of the car, took off his suit jacket, and draped it over my shoulders. He pulled me toward him, shielding me behind his back. He looked at Hunter, his eyes devoid of anger, showing only the calm of a victor. CEO Sterling, I believe Miss King has made herself very clear. Please have some self-respect. Hunter looked at me standing behind another man, seeing the protection and warmth Owen gave me. He dropped his hands limply, all his strength draining away. He knew he had completely lost. I didn't look at him one more time, getting into the car with Owen. The car glided away, leaving Hunter standing alone in the cold parking garage, as lonely as a ghost. The collapse of an empire usually happens faster than one expects. After failing the Smart City bid, Sterling Global completely lost its final lifeline. Debts matured, investors fled, internal conflicts raged. Hunter, after his last meeting with me, seemed to have lost all will to fight. He went back to the company but was nothing more than a soulless shell. And then the final blow landed. During an emergency shareholder meeting, shocking news was announced. A foreign investment fund named Phoenix Capital had quietly bought up over 40% of Sterling Global's shares on the open market, officially becoming the largest shareholder. Hunter sat in the chairman's seat, stunned. He had absolutely no idea this investment fund even existed. The boardroom doors opened, and Phoenix Capital's representative walked in. The person leading the group wasn't some foreigner. It was a highly familiar face, Carter King. My brother smiled, striding to the head of the table, followed by Owen Davis and a massive team of lawyers and financial experts. Greetings, gentlemen. Carter nodded to the board of directors. His gaze finally stopped on Hunter's pale face. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Carter King, the authorized representative for Phoenix Capital. As of today, we will be taking over all operations of Sterling Global. The entire room exploded. So this wasn't a standard hostile takeover. This was a meticulously orchestrated act of revenge. Hunter shot up from his chair, glaring at my brother. Carter, it's you. Yes, it's me. Carter shrugged, the smile on his lips growing wider. Hunter, you owe my sister. Today, I came to collect the debt, principal and interest included. Don't worry, I won't let Sterling Global go bankrupt. I will keep it and grow it even bigger. But, he leaned in close to Hunter's ear, his voice dripping with sarcasm. You will have to stay here as a regular director, with no real power, just so you can watch your kingdom sit in the hands of others every single day. This is the most fitting punishment for you. Hunter stumbled and slumped back into his chair. He had lost everything. He lost the woman he loved, lost his career, and now lost his final shred of dignity. He had become a puppet in his own company. While Hunter was experiencing the ultimate humiliation, another family trial was taking place at the old Sterling estate. Without Hunter to back her up, Willow had been summoned by the family elders. At the head sat the eldest uncle, a strict and conservative man. He set his teacup down, the dry clink echoing in the quiet living room. Willow, he spoke without a trace of affection. The Sterling family took you in for over 20 years, gave you a life many people dream of. But what did you do to repay us? You smeared mud on the family's honor, turning us into a laughingstock for the world. Willow knelt on the floor, weeping miserably. Uncle, I know I was wrong. Please forgive me this once. I will never do it again. There is no next time. The eldest uncle said coldly. The family council has decided. As of today, your name will be struck from the Sterling family registry. You are no longer a member of the Sterling family. Willow froze, looking up at him with eyes full of disbelief. Being struck from the registry that was crueler than being kicked out of the house. No, it can't be. My adoptive parents. It was only out of respect for them that we let you live in peace until today. Another uncle spoke up. Here is some money. He tossed a bank card in front of her. There is $150,000 on it, enough for you to start a new life. Take it and leave this house immediately. Do not ever come back. Willow crawled over, clinging to the eldest uncle's leg. Uncle, please don't kick me out. I have nowhere else to go. But all she received were cold stares. The elders stood up and walked away one by one, not bothering to look at her again. Finally, Willow was left alone in the massive living room. She looked around. Everything was familiar yet so foreign. She had lost it all. A long time later, she staggered to her feet, picked up the bank card, grabbed her only suitcase, and walked out the large gates of the Sterling estate. The heavy iron gates slowly closed behind her, letting out a screeching creak like a knife, completely severing her past. She stood alone on the empty street, not knowing where to go. No more luxury cars, no more unlimited credit cards, no more status as the Sterling heiress, only a bleak future and the punishment for the sins she had committed. After the storm passed, the sky didn't just clear up. It became more brilliant than ever. My life, after clearing away the dark, gloomy clouds, finally welcomed its own warm rays of sunshine. The news of Owen and my engagement spread quickly, becoming a beautiful anecdote in New York high society. Everyone admired the love story of childhood sweethearts finding their way back to each other after weathering many storms. Our wedding naturally became the most anticipated event. Chloe, how does this one look? I turned around to look at myself in the mirror. The world-renowned bridal designer, whom Owen flew in specifically from Paris, was carefully adjusting the train of my gown. The dress was made of premium satin, designed in a vintage style, simple yet exquisite. Tiny pearls were hand-stitched onto the lace bodice, radiating a gentle, elegant glow. Owen stood in the background, leaning against the doorframe. He wasn't wearing a suit, just a simple white dress shirt, but the way he looked at me sparkled brighter than the most expensive diamonds. Beautiful, he said, his deep voice carrying a smile. But not because of the dress, but because of the person wearing it. I laughed, my face blushing slightly. Attorney Davis, since when did you learn to say such sweet things? He walked over, standing behind me, and wrapped his arms around my waist. He bowed his head, resting his chin on my shoulder, and looked at our reflection in the mirror with me. Ever since we reunited, he whispered, his warm breath tickling my ear. I am only telling the truth. In my eyes, you are always the most beautiful. The warmth from his embrace spread through my body. I leaned my head on his shoulder, feeling absolute peace and security. This was happiness. A simple but incredibly real happiness. Something I once thought I could never have in this lifetime. The wedding preparations went on in a very joyful and cozy atmosphere. My parents and Owen's parents were already close friends. Now that they were about to become in-laws, the joy doubled. The two mothers happily chattered every day, picking out decorations and planning the menu, while the two fathers sat in the study playing chess, discussing business, occasionally bursting into hearty laughter. My brother, Carter, was the busiest of all. He had to manage corporate affairs while personally overseeing every detail of his little sister's wedding, terrified that even a minor mistake would make me unhappy. He even proudly declared that the dowry he prepared for me would blind all of New York. Owen, tell me, is my brother overreacting? I said while peeling an apple for Owen. He was sitting on the sofa reading documents. Hearing that, he looked up and smiled. Not overreacting. It is because he loves you. He wants to ensure you are the happiest bride in the world. He put down the documents, took the apple slice I handed him, and said gently, and so do I. Chloe, I want to make up for all the grievances you had to endure. I want to place this whole world right into your hands. My heart fluttered once again at his sincerity. I unconsciously remembered the past. 3 years ago, I also prepared for a wedding. But that wedding had no joy, no anticipation. Hunter never asked what kind of wedding dress I liked, never went ring shopping with me. Everything was arranged single-handedly by his assistant, cold and soulless like a business contract. Even on the wedding day, his smile was incredibly forced. This contrast made me cherish my present happiness even more. I had walked a path full of rocks and thorns, only to finally find my own path paved with roses. That evening, after a family dinner, Owen and I took a walk in the backyard. This garden had been renovated by my father after I returned. He had planted many white roses, exactly like the dream garden I once described to Owen. Owen, thank you. I suddenly stopped and turned to him. He looked surprised. Thank you? For what? For everything, I said, my voice slightly choked up. Thank you for waiting for me. Thank you for staying by my side when I was at my weakest. Thank you for healing my heart. If it weren't for you, I might still be drowning in the darkness of the past. He didn't say anything, just quietly pulled me into a tight embrace. Silly girl, I didn't do anything. It is all because you were strong enough to walk out of that darkness yourself. I was just lucky enough to be by your side, witnessing the moment you were reborn as brilliantly as a phoenix. He leaned down and placed a gentle kiss right on the faded scar on my forehead. To me, this is not a flaw. It is proof of your resilience, and I love that resilience too. I closed my eyes, enjoying the peace in his arms. The night breeze was chilly, but my heart was incredibly warm. Tomorrow, I would become his bride. A bright and happy future was waiting for us ahead. Wedding day. The New York sky was a clear blue without a single cloud, as if the heavens and earth were also blessing us. I sat in front of the vanity mirror, looking at myself. The makeup artist was finishing the final touches. My makeup was light and ethereal, highlighting my natural features. My hair was tied up in an elegant updo, adorned with a small platinum and diamond tiara, a gift from Owen's mother. I wore the wedding dress we had picked out together. It wasn't the most extravagant dress, but it was the one that made me feel the most comfortable and confident. The door opened, and my parents and brother walked in. The moment my mother saw me, she couldn't hold back her tears. "My baby girl, you look so beautiful today." She hugged me, her voice choked with emotion. My father stood beside her, his usually strict face now glowing with tenderness and emotion. He patted my shoulder gently. "Chloe, when you marry into their family, make sure you live a happy life. If Owen dares to bully you, tell me. I won't let him off the hook." I laughed through my tears. "Dad, he wouldn't." Carter walked up and handed me a velvet box. "Here is a wedding gift from me. Live a good life from now on. Don't make me worry about you anymore." I opened the box. Inside was a key to a beachfront villa and all of his shares in a subsidiary company. "Carter!" I looked at him in surprise. "Take it. The sister of Carter King is getting married. How can she fall short compared to anyone else?" He smiled a smile that was both doting and a bit reluctant to let me go. The wedding ceremony was held in a historic church in the suburbs. The reception followed in a vast garden surrounded by a forest of white roses, exactly like my childhood dream. When the melodious music played, the grand doors of the church slowly opened. My father held my hand as I slowly walked down the aisle covered in white rose petals. At the end of the aisle, Owen Davis was waiting. He wore a white tuxedo, his hair neatly styled. When he saw me, I saw a flash of awe in his eyes, followed by tenderness and finally a deep, unconcealable love. In that moment, I knew this man was my destiny. My father handed my hand over to Owen, his voice solemn. "Owen, today I hand over my most precious daughter to you. Please take care of her and love her for me." "Yes, Dad, I promise." Owen held my hand tightly, his voice unwavering. We stood before the priest, listening to his solemn teachings. And then the most important moment arrived. Owen turned to me, holding my hands. His deep, sincere voice resonated. "Chloe King, I have waited for this day for a very long time. I used to stand from afar, watching you be happy, watching you be sad, watching you get hurt. I felt helpless, and I was heartbroken, but I never gave up hope. Hope that one day I could stand here and hold your hand like this. I am not a prince, nor can I promise you a castle. But I promise I will spend my entire life building a home for you, a place truly called home. A place with the white rose garden you always dreamed of, and most importantly, a place where I will always be waiting for you. I love you." My tears flowed once more. I took a deep breath, looking straight into his eyes, my voice trembling but full of resolve. "Owen Davis, I once thought I would never believe in love again. I was lost in the dark night, unable to find a way out. But then you appeared, like a lighthouse illuminating the path for me, guiding me home. You healed my wounds. You warmed my frozen heart." I raised my hand to lightly touch the scar on my forehead. This scar, it used to be a pain, a humiliation, but now, to me, it is a reminder of the journey that brought me to you. Thank you for loving an imperfect me. I love you too. Do you take this person to be your lawfully wedded spouse, promising to love and be faithful? For richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, till death do you part? "I do," we answered in unison. Under the witness of God and everyone present, we exchanged rings as proof of our eternal love and shared a sweet, deep kiss. Applause and cheers echoed throughout the church. The past was truly left behind. A happy and fulfilling future was wide open to welcome us. A year after the wedding, time passed neither too fast nor too slow, just enough for the old scars to fade completely, leaving only peace and overflowing happiness. Our new home was in a quiet lakeside mansion community. Just like the childhood dream, it had a massive garden, and Owen had turned it into a kingdom of white roses. In all 4 seasons, the garden was always fragrant, the pristine white roses blooming fully, symbolizing our pure and eternal love. I sat on the swing in the garden, swaying gently. my hand resting on my heavily pregnant belly. The autumn breeze blew softly, carrying the gentle scent of flowers. Owen walked out of the house holding a plate of carefully sliced fruit. He draped a light cardigan over my shoulders. "Why didn't you bring a coat out here? Careful, you'll catch a cold." He grumbled, but his voice was full of indulgence. I smiled, leaning my head on his shoulder. "I just wanted to come out for some fresh air. The two little monsters in my belly are so active today, they keep kicking me." Owen laughed. He knelt down and pressed his ear to my belly, his voice meltingly gentle. "Hello, my two little ones. Be good, don't bully Mommy. She is working so hard carrying you both." He looked up at me, his eyes sparkling with a light called happiness. "Chloe, thank you. Why are you thanking me?" I was surprised. "Thank you for coming to me, for giving me a complete family. Thank you for giving me such adorable children." He kissed my belly gently, then kissed my lips. Our married life didn't have dramatic plots like in the movies. It was simply waking up in each other's arms in the morning, cozy dinners, watching a good movie together at night, or just sitting in the garden reading a book. But that simple normalcy was the most enduring happiness. Owen was an amazing husband. No matter how busy his legal and investment work got, he always made time for family. He never let me go to prenatal checkups alone, and he never forgot the foods I liked. He said, "Career is important, but family is the foundation of everything." I was also no longer the heiress who only knew how to rely on others. After getting married, I continued to manage the West Coast branch of King Enterprises. The business kept expanding. I had proven my abilities, becoming a successful and respected businesswoman. I was confident, independent, and radiant. Owen always supported every decision I made. He said he was proud to have such a talented wife like me. We weren't just husband and wife. We were teammates building our career and family together. Today is the weekend. My parents and brother came to visit. The already warm house was now even more filled with laughter. As soon as my mother saw my belly, she gasped. "Oh my, haven't seen you in a few days and your belly has gotten this big. My two grandchildren must be so strong and healthy." My father gave Owen some serious advice. "Owen, you need to pay more attention to Chloe these days. A woman carrying twins goes through a lot. Just hand over some of the corporate work to Carter." Carter, sitting nearby, pouted. "Dad, do you see me as a workhorse or something? I need time to date too." The whole family burst into laughter. Dinner proceeded in an incredibly warm atmosphere. Everyone gathered around, telling funny stories, imagining the future when the two babies are born. Looking at the happy smiles on the faces of my loved ones, I felt like the luckiest woman in the world. I had lost everything once, but now I had gained everything, and even more. That night, after seeing my parents and brother off, Owen helped me back to the bedroom. He massaged my feet, which were showing signs of swelling. His movements were incredibly gentle and professional. "Do you feel better?" He looked up and asked. I nodded, looking at him with emotion. "Owen, did I save the world in my past life to be lucky enough to meet you in this one?" He laughed, leaning down to kiss the top of my foot. "No, it is because I owed you too much in my past life, so I came to pay my debt in this one." He stood up, turned off the main lights, leaving only a dim night light. He got into bed and hugged me from behind, his large, warm hand gently resting on my belly. "Go to sleep, darling," he whispered in my ear. "The babies and I will always be right here with you." I closed my eyes, smiling contentedly. The past was a nightmare, but my present and future were the sweetest dream. The sweet fruit of happiness was finally ready to be harvested. Los Angeles, a late autumn afternoon. Hunter Sterling sat alone in a hidden corner of a luxury cafe, across from a large park. He wore an expensive suit, but it couldn't hide the exhaustion and loneliness etched deeply into his face. His eyes were sunken, his gaze lifeless and distant. More than a year had passed. He was still a director at Sterling Global, still went to work every day, still sat in the office that was once a symbol of his power, but now he was nothing more than a puppet. Every major and minor decision had to go through the new board of directors. And the head of that board was none other than Carter King. Going to work every day was torture for him, a constant reminder of his miserable failure. He had lost everything: his career, power, fame, and the only woman he realized he loved when it was already too late. He didn't drink anymore. Sobriety made the pain and regret even sharper, gnawing at him every second, every minute. He often came to sit here, ordering a black coffee with no sugar, as bitter as his life was right now, and quietly looked out at the park. Today was the same. He sat there, until a familiar silhouette suddenly entered his line of sight, making his cold heart suddenly skip a beat. It is her, Chloe. She was taking a walk in the park, next to Owen Davis. She wore a soft cream maternity dress, Her face was a bit fuller, but she radiated the mature, fulfilling beauty of a happy woman. The radiant smile on her lips was something he had never possessed. Owen walked beside her, one hand carefully supporting her waist, the other carrying a shopping bag. He looked at her with an unconcealable gaze of pure adoration and love. Occasionally, he would lean down and whisper something into her ear, making her giggle. They looked like a perfect picture, a picture of a happy family that he once had the chance to paint but tore apart with his own hands. Hunter sat as still as a statue. He didn't dare blink, afraid that with just one blink, that image would disappear. He saw Owen carefully help her sit on a stone bench, then pull out a handkerchief to wipe the sweat from her forehead. He saw her lean her head on Owen's shoulder, her face overflowing with trust and peace. All those gentle actions, all that small attention to detail, they were things he had never done for her. He used to think those things were cheesy and meaningless, but now he realized that was exactly what love was. A surge of jealousy and intense pain rolled in his chest. He used to have all of that. That woman used to be his, but he didn't know how to cherish her, personally pushing her into the arms of another man. He wanted to run out there, wanted to scream that she was his, but what right did he have? He was just a loser, a terrible ex-husband. His appearance now would only stain their perfect picture of happiness. He could only sit there from a great distance, quietly observing, like a thief greedily staring at a treasure that would never belong to him. A long while later, they stood up and walked away hand in hand. Their silhouettes stretched long on the pebble path, blending into the warm sunset. They looked perfectly meant for each other. Hunter remained seated until their figures completely disappeared. He slowly lowered his head, burying his face in his hands. His broad shoulders began to shake, silently. Only hot, delayed tears leaked through his fingers, falling into his cold cup of coffee. He once had the whole world in his hands, but let it slip away. And his sentence wasn't bankruptcy or prison, but eternal loneliness and torment. Every passing day, he would have to live in regret, remembering what he had lost. He looked up, gazing in the direction they had left. In his eyes, there was no more anger or jealousy, just a bitter acceptance. To her now, he was just a stranger passing by. And so, you have just finished listening to the romance story of the CEO who let his mistress injure his wife, leading to a divorce, a new love for her, and the loss of his entire empire. Do not forget to like the video if you enjoyed it.